Welcome, ma'am. Yes, we are honored to have your presence and guidance for this keynote. And assisting us for today are our reporter Ria and technical assistant Somya. So it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Sreekutty TJ, who is an assistant professor at the Department of English and other European languages. Dr. Harisingh Gour Vishwavidyalaya Sagar. And today enlightening us today on a fascinating subject, which is transforming tradition and transgression, retelling myths in contemporary narratives. I hand over the floor to you.
I hope I'm audible. Am I?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Neha, for the introduction, and thank you, Safia Begum, ma'am, for the for I think the chair of the session, and Jolly sir. It's indeed a pleasure to be a part of this program. It is quite a very privileged thing for me. So, without much ado, I think I'll start my presentation. Can I?
Safia.
Please.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
please.
may I share my screen?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
please.
Yeah, all right. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
All right, yeah. So if at all there are any technical issues in between, please text me in WhatsApp so that the session is not disturbed, maybe too much. All right. Okay, yeah. So thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. So my topic for the day is transforming tradition and transgression, myths retold in contemporary narratives. So my focus would be for the day is to say what are we doing with myths. Okay, so the question is myths, because this is a buzzword in academia, especially literature and folk culture departments. We get to see a lot of discussion on myths and how myths are retold, or how myths are put forth in the public, and how people deal with myths in general. So my topic would be on how these myths are dealt today, as well as how is there a particular way to deal with myths in contemporary scenarios. So would be my focus area. And is there any transformation going on, or is there a transformation of the tradition going on, or are we really transgressing from the proper way of dealing with myths? So these are the things that I'll be discussing today, with so many examples from contemporary genres, across genres actually, not just literature. I'll be taking examples from folklores and movies also, to make it maybe to spice it up a little. All right, so moving on. So let's say, why do you think, or the beginning question would be, how do myths survive? Okay, so this is the basic question that we all ask. So how do these myths survive? Because this has begun from time immemorial. So how are they surviving even now? So the major reason for the survival is because of such discourses that we have today. See, even this conference, this YRF conference that we are part of today, is also one way of one way for the survival of myths, because we are discussing it every day across generations. So be it a reinterpretation, be it a retelling, be it recreation or reimagination, whatever we are doing today are the reasons for the myths to survive even now. So we are the ones there who are keeping them alive, and we as communities reshape myths in their own context. So this is one of the reasons, the contextualizing of the myths, or textualizing of the myths, which makes them survive in time, or which makes them contemporary or timeless most of the time. So this is how myths survive. So let's say when these myths are surviving, are they transformed or are they becoming something else? Or are we preserving myths in the way it originated, or are we meddling with it in a very huge manner? Or are we really dealing with myths in its proper way? So these are the things that we have to think about. So let's say what is happening in the discourse of mythology, like whether we are transforming it or whether we are transgressing it, we'll see. So traditions or the practices in tradition that we have today, it is said to be a way to preserve cultural memory. So if you look at any rituals around us or any ceremonies around us or whatever things that we engage in our day-to-day life, there will be a myth behind it. Okay, there will be some or the other myth or practice behind it. So traditional practices actually preserves cultural memory in this way. All right. So whatever we are doing every day, it is a way of preserving the tradition. Okay. All right. So now the question is whether we are transgressing. So what does transgression mean? You deviate from a particular path, right? So that is transgression. So are transgressions allowed in the discourse of mythology, or when we discuss mythology, are transgressions allowed? It is actually allowed mainly because it allows a lot of reinterpretations of mythology and reinterpretations which are possible in the contemporary way of expressions. All right. So we are expressing myths, or we are dealing with myths in the way the new generation deals with myths, or how common man deals with myths. So we reinterpret myths while we transgress from the normal way of dealing with myths. So again, the question is, what is this normal way of dealing with myths, right? So when we want to transform something, or when we want to transgress something, there should be something that is acceptable way of mythology, right? So do we have such an acceptable way of mythology? So this is what we have to discuss right now. So retellings actually illustrates this dynamics of discussing myths, like whether we are moving on in an acceptable way or in an unacceptable way. So this is the question that we have to address every now and then. So there is negotiation between tradition and creative transformation, which determines the survival of mythic narrative. So there is a negotiation happening. So we cannot say that there is one particular way of transforming myths and there is only one way of writing about mythology. There are multiple ways in which myths can be written. When we come to the examples, I think it will be more clear for you. Right now, I'm just trying to lay a foundation for thinking like what we are trying to do with such conferences and such discussions on mythology. So basically we are dealing with traditions, how traditions play a vital role in preservation of cultural memory, how reinterpretations play a vital role in this process, and is transgression allowed in the discourse of mythology. So these are the basic things that we are dealing today. All right, so moving on, let's see why myths are a buzzword. Okay, why are we dealing with mythology? Because if you look at the definition of mythology, they are the stories which were written or narrated to a community, guiding them or informing them or giving them knowledge regarding the culture they are part of, or the tradition they are part of, or the life they are leading. So that is why myths are very important. So mythologies, we cannot avoid them in any circumstance. Okay, no matter whatever time frame we belong to or whichever place we belong to, myths are and they are not a fixed text. Okay, we don't have a single text to say that this is the myths that we have to follow, or these are the guidelines we have to follow as a social animal, or these are the guidelines we have to follow as a participant of a social community. So there are no fixed texts when it comes to mythology, and it evolves through retelling. So whatever myths we are part of, whatever myths we are talking about today, at this point, they are all evolved retellings. Okay, they are not something that has been handed down just like we have Vedic literature or the Vedas that we talk about. Myths are entirely different from that. They have evolved through a lot of procedures and processes through retellings basically, and vernacular traditions reinterpret myth in a particular way. So why are we talking about vernacularity? Especially the focus of this conference is vernacularity. What is the significance of vernacularity? Why do we have to talk about myths in the local dialect? Or why do we have to deal with myths in the local cultural way? Or how we see mythology through the lens of local cultures and local dialects and local languages, or whatever that we are dealing with today. So vernacular traditions especially contribute a lot in reinterpreting mythology, and folklore becomes a repository of cultural knowledge. So when I deal with the examples, we'll come to that. And regional languages and traditions also contribute immensely to this evolution of mythology. And there is local interpretation of myths in these traditions, and we get to see a decentralization of canonical narrative. This is the major point. Why are mythology getting discussed every now and then? That is mainly because there is a deliberate attempt to decentralize certain canonical narratives which only provide a narrow way of thinking. All right. So when we are discussing myths in academia, what we are trying to do is to contribute to this decentralization process where we are challenging the canonical narratives. Also, we are looking whether there is any sort of exchanges happening between the canonical narratives and the so-called regional or the marginalized art forms or literature that we have. So we will move on. So folklore and literature as knowledge repositories. This is very important. So we are dealing with folklores and literary text every now and then when we talk about myths. So it functions, the folklores and literature, they functions as cultural knowledge transmission. Why are we dealing with so much of folklores and literature every day? This is mainly because they act as cultural knowledge repositories. They are a great source of knowledge that has been sidelined or marginalized for a long time. So in conferences like this or in discourses like this, what are we trying to do? We're trying to bring forth all these ideas to the forefront. All right. So what are these folklores and literatures trying to tell us? What is the kind of knowledge that is being transmitted over here? So this is what we have to look at. And what are the ways in which these knowledge is getting transmitted? So folklore includes, as we all know, it includes oral narratives, there are ritual performances, there are folk arts, folk performances, art performances, and community memory plays a vital role in, folklore repository. So literary studies, on the other hand, examines written myth, retellings, and narrative reinterpretations. Also, literary studies would examine oral narratives, how certain stories are transmitted to across generations, or how certain stories pass from one generation to another. So we people belonging to folklore discipline or literary discipline have a major role to play in the discussion of myth or the discourse of myth, mainly because it acts as a cultural symbol. Myth is a cultural symbol. It is a repository of cultural knowledge, and they are transmitted or they are spread or transferred to different generation by different people in various forms. So we'll see what are the different forms in which these knowledge repositories are handed over to the generation. This ensures the dynamic life of myth as well. All right, when we engage in theoretically or in an academic way by using the skill sets and tool sets of folklore and literary studies, we are actually ensuring the dynamic life of myth. So this is our purpose. So the ritual, folklore, and myth. So I'm talking about some of the local myths in my area. So there is this Andallur Kaava. In my place, I belong to Kannur, Kerala. It is a northern part of Kerala. So, a northern part or a Malabar area of Kerala, you might have heard that it is very famous for Theyyam performances. We are like into most of performative arts in the form of rituals and ceremonies. So, Andallur Kaava, which is again a small temple in a place called Andallur in Dharmadam of Talasheri, Kerala. So, this particular Theyyam performance is a way of preserving certain mythology in our area. All right. It is also a way of preserving certain cultural mythologies and practices and ceremonies, but also there is a deliberate attempt to be a part of the grand narrative of Ramayana in this Theyyam. All right. So here, the thing is that in Andalukava, the Teyyam performance is based on the Ramayana story. All right. The deity, the major deity is called Devatara. Okay, so Devatara is said to be an embodiment of Rama, Sri Rama in Ramayana. So the performer becomes the deity. And you may also know that there is no like organization of all these performances in northern Malabar side, because if you see the performers who take up the role of these deities, they mostly belong to the other backward class in that terminology, if you want to call. So we see that the performers are from categories of other backward classes where they adorn the form of the deity. So Sri Rama becomes a popular god in front of the people who belong to a particular class, and it is among that people one of them becomes the performer, one of them becomes the deity. So this is the speciality of the myth that is being dealt in this particular place. So here we see that the myth of Rama, or the story of Rama, the values and whatever the knowledge that is being written in Ramayana is getting a local coloring when it comes to Andalur Kavatheyam. So myth is an enactment over here. It is an embodiment. The ritual, through rituals, there is an enactment or embodiment of this myth. All right, so this is what is happening under Kavu. So I'll show you the images of that. There is a ritual embodiment of the myth, and there is community participation. This is the most important part. So when we discuss about myth and mythology, if you look into earlier times, you might have seen that earlier the stories or the literature was passed on orally. All right, there would be a preceptor, a teacher who is in charge of transmitting this knowledge, and it will be transferred to the people who would be interested to learn. All right, so here what happens in Teyyam performance in Andalukava is that it's almost a similar process. All right, the deity who himself adorns as the preceptor or the teacher. So here the deity is kind of a teacher telling the story of dharma, or telling the story of karma and how it is to be a noble king and all. The deity, one among the community, adorns himself as the deity and performs the art. And this deity, after the performance, meets the people and ensures that they are included in this discourse of enactment, compared to the erstwhile literatures or erstwhile ritualistic practices. We have a live community participation within the ritual, ensuring the dynamic nature of mythology being enacted or embodied over here. So oral storytelling and performative art are included within this ritual, which ensures a very lively performance, which makes the myth very lively for that community. All right, so this is one way of ensuring the everlasting nature of myth, or this is one way of making it contemporary. That means it is not just the deity and the priest communicating with each other. It is the common man or common people, despite their age, communicating with the deity over here. So here myth becomes a living cultural performance. So this is one way in which myth are restored, or the traditions are made lively. And the transformation element over here is that the myth of Ramayana is getting a new coloring of a Teyyam performance, where the community participates in it in a very lively and enthusiastic manner. See, so this is the Teyyam images that I've taken from internet. So this is in regard to Andalukava Teyyam. So this on the left-hand side, if you see, this is the Devatar Teyyam that I'm talking about. So this is basically Sri Rama. So look at the colors used. So basically in Teyyam performances, you know how the attires would be. They are extraordinary, extravagant, and very heavy attires they use, and there is rich color of red and white and black getting used. And this red, white and black colors are mostly associated with folk traditions. If you at this moment, I would like to quote one of my friends who was also a previous student in Center for Folk Culture Studies in Hyderabad. She belonged to Kabi Anglong. So she talks about her folk I mean, some of the things in her tribe. Say, for example, the colors used in their paintings, the material, the color of the materials they use in fabrics and all. So all these things have a blend of white, black, and red. So here also you can see the same thing. There is this richness of red, white, and black in the Teya Kola. So you see that Rama is being imagined or recreated or embodied in this particular way. And on the right hand side, you can see another Teya Rupa. And this performer is actually in the form of Bapuran. We call him the Bapuran. So Bapuran is a localized version of Hanuman. Okay, the Hanuman Teyam. So here we have Hanuman using that, just like Devatar is adorned in red and white and black. You see the same in a different combination in Bapuran as well. So there is a uniformity of colors used, but in a different way. All right, but giving a different characteristic features to different characters of the epic. So you see there is uniformity of colors. The colors used are the same, but in different way, which indicates or which symbolizes that like there are multiple ways in which you can manifest mythology in different art forms. So here we have Sri Rama also in red, black, and yellow, white, and other ornaments that demarcates or differentiates him from the Bapuran Teyyam, which again uses the same color combination but in a different way. But it manifests the same thing, that is Hanuman and Sri Rama. Again, coming to other Teyyam, the pictures are not very clear. Yeah, but I'll tell you. So this first image on the left hand corner, that is Sita and her children. Okay, we call it Adiralar and Makkal. Okay, so which means it is Sita and Makkal. They belong to, they are away from the Ayodhya. So there is a clear-cut demarcation between the placement of these gods as well. When Sri Rama is in the Mele cover, that is the upper part of the temple, we have Sita and her children in the lower cover, or the what we call it, the Tare cover, which is the lower part of the temple, indicating the distance at which they are according to the Ramayana. This is from the Uttarakhanda. So we see Sita and Makkal. So we have the Tiyam performance. Again, the colors are the same, but the attire differences are there, again symbolizing a unity in the the characterization. Then on the right hand corner, the lower corner, you can see this is Bali and Sugriva. Okay, Bali and Sugriva, it again indicates that Bali Sugriva Yuddha in Ramayana. So that is embodied in this Teyyam performances. So be it the Ramayana of Valmiki or be the Ramayana according to the Andalur Teyyam, we get to see the mythology, the stories or the values or the cultural knowledge of Ramayana, or blending with the local traditions over here. So you get to see there are so many rituals associated with this Teyyam performances. There is this speciality of bringing the attire of the god, bringing of the hair of the god. I mean, hair in the sense the kirida, the crown of the god. It is a ritual, and there are so many agricultural rituals associated with it, because this happens in the month of February every year. All right, so it is more or less related to agricultural festival. So we see a blend of the grand narrative of the Ramayana with the local traditions and practices and rituals, making it a rich cultural repository, which is an immense source of discussion for people like us who belong to literature and folk culture traditions, right? So this is one way of enacting or embodying mythology. This is one way in which we engage in the discourse of mythology. So this is one thing. And another practice in this Teyyam is Meyyalugudal. Meyyalugudal, I'm using the Malayalam word because this tradition is only there in this place. So Meyyalugudal is actually a symbol of the Vanara tribe. Okay, so you see the people are dressed in white and white. Mostly it is done by men only. It's men alone who do this, men and children alone. So they wear this white and white dress, and they symbolize the strength of the army of Rama. Okay, the Vanara tribe of the Rama. And this ritual is a very important part of this Teyyam, mainly because it symbolizes the unity of powers. We see Hanuman Teyam, that is this Bapuran Teyam, and also we have Lakshmana in the form of Angakaran. Okay, Lakshmana is called Angakaran. So we have this Angakara Teyam, Bapuran Teyam, and Devatar, that is Sri Rama, coming together along with this immense tribe of people. These are all common men in and around that place, adorning themselves as the tribe of Rama, and coming in unity to symbolize something, or to show something to the world. So this is part of the tradition. This is a way in which myth is embodied, and which is myth is being enacted actively in front of the people. All right, so there is community participation over here. So the tradition and transgression in Theyyam is that the tradition is the preservation of the ritual myth. So we have the ritual traditions preserved through these performances, and the transgression is, as I said, it is one among the community who is coming and performing as the deity. So the ritual space challenges certain social hierarchy. So this is one way in which myths are very lively, because the discussion on myths or the discourse on myths is a way to challenge social hierarchy. So as we already mentioned about decentralization of mythology, grand narratives. So myths are a great tool or instruments or platforms to challenge social hierarchy. So there is a cultural negotiation. As I said, it is a blend of the grand narrative of Ramayana as well as the local cultures and local agricultural practices and rituals blended together in this particular art form. So this is one way of consuming mythology, or one way of talking about mythology. Then we come to another way of mythic narrative, which is a folk art. I'm here mentioning Bundeli paintings. Okay, Bundeli Bhitti Chitrakala. Okay, Bhitti Chitrakala is actually Chitedi art, which is again a painting, a kind of wall painting. So it is a narrative visual art. There are mythological themes dealt with it, and there are local cultural symbolisms also discussed in these. So we have Ramayana stories, Krishna, the stories of Krishna, the stories of Mahabharata, Puranas, and some of the local village ritual scenes also we can see in these Bundeli art. So myth here becomes a visualized storytelling. All right. So there is local ecology playing in part, agricultural practices, festivals, and social customs. Everything is blended in these paintings. And here, this particular folk art preserves community knowledge system. So art here acts as a method to preserve community knowledge system. So I'll show you some examples of the Bundeli painting. These are taken from my university's calendar. So thanks to the Department of Performance Arts, and so they have brought up these paintings, fine arts and performative arts. So there is a department in our university. So they have come up with these paintings. The students of this department have brought these paintings. So this is a Bundeli art. So if you check the first and second images, the first image, I hope you can recognize, it talks about Narasimha Avatar. Okay, it is about Narasimha Avatar. Look at the way in which Narasimha is represented over here. Look at the background given, the kind of floral design attached to it. How this mythology is getting enacted in these paintings. And on the right hand side, you have Rama's Darbar being painted again. You see Hanuman, you see Rama and Sita in different dresses, the dresses they wear, the background given to the painting. So it is a blend. If you check these images, you may also find some Mughal elements also. You can see some Taj Mahal kind of paintings style in this paintings. This is Bundeli art. It is again a blend of so many cultures over here. Again, we have this Varaha avatar of Vishnu, again represented in Bundeli art. Then we have Krishna and his Gopikas again. So this is an example of Bundeli art. So what is happening in this particular art form? We get to see mythology, even though the story is the same, it is getting a new manifestation over here. And we as folk culture students, or we as folk culture scholars and literary scholars, our duty is to read them in the context. We are supposed to contextualize and textualize these narratives in a particular manner so that it contributes immensely to the Indian knowledge system, right? So this this is also part of Indian knowledge system. Be it Bundeli art, be it the Andalokavatayam, they are also part of Indian knowledge system. So that is my point. So the tradition versus the transgression part is that there is a preservation of myths when it comes to tradition. There is ritual continuity and cultural memory is preserved when it comes to tradition. When we deal with tradition in Indian knowledge system, or when we deal with tradition in the discipline of literature and folk culture, what we are doing is these things. We are preserving, we are ensuring the continuity of rituals, and also we are preserving a cultural memory. And when it comes to transgression part, it is not a negative term. We are actually reinterpreting myth in our own way. There is creative transformation and a contemporary relevance. This is the major point that we are focusing from now on. So we'll be focusing on what is the contemporary relevance of all these narratives. So if you check the Bundeli art, you will see the Chitedi art, you get to see the local colors or the local way of seeing this mythology is being explored over here. When it comes to Andalur Kavatayam also, you get to see how the people of Andalur or the people of Northern Malabar region, they see mythology in a way. So now let's go to some of the popular ways in which myths are retold. All right. So, so far I've dealt with some of the regional ways in which, or the local ways in which mythologies are dealt. But now let's see some of the pan-Indian or popular ways in which myths are dealt with. So we have writings of Amesh Tripathi, Chitra Devagarni, Banerjee, Kavita Khane. You might have come across all these writers in one time or the other. So what are they doing in their retellings? Again, it is a literary way of engaging with the discourse of mythology. So there are films and animation movies that deals with mythology. So we have mythological figures reimagined in a particular way. There are recreations of mythological figures in modern language and philosophy, and even contemporary political movements and contemporary political ideals are incorporated. So myths are translated in a particular way for contemporary readers. So we are not just transforming it, we are actually translating it along with certain transgressions as well. All right. So these are the cover pictures of Amesh Tripathi's, Ramachandra series. The first book, that is Sign of Ikshwaku, and then the second book, that is Warrior of Mithila, Sita. So we see, if you analyze the cover pictures of these two texts, you see that the face of the hero or the heroine is not revealed in the cover picture. Imagine if it was of Adhyatma Ramayana that we are taking, or when we are talking about any other Puranas for that matter, you get to see, if you're giving a picture to the, when we are talking about the deity, there will be a clear-cut picture of the deity over here. But in these two texts, we see that the picture of the deity is deliberately not given. And there is a scholar called Emma Dawson Varghese who has written intensively on this aspect of modern retellings, where, there is an occlusion. We call it occlusion, where the deity's faces are deliberately hidden in a way so that the people don't identify with them religiously. So it is a deliberate choice of the people who make these art forms to not make the people identify with these deities. So this is also a way of engaging with mythology. You need not engage it in a religious way, just like we saw it in Andalur Kavatayam. We don't have to engage it in a religious way. It can also be in a very artistic, aesthetic and literary way as well, symbolized by these cover pages, Rama and Sita's cover pages. All right. So this is one example. So now I think we are very much familiar with this example of Adipurush and Ghibli Studio Ramayana. When Adipurush released, this was an immense discussion. Look at the two Ravanas discussed over here. This is also a way of engaging with mythology. So my point, when I brought these two images together, my point to prove is that, in any manner, whatever we are doing, we are engaging with mythology, be it the trolls on Adipurush, or be it the eulogizing of the Ghibli Studio Ramayana. Whatever we are doing with, we are engaging, we are actually making this discourse of mythology dynamic, okay, and very engaging. Now look at the difference between these two Ravanas. In Ghibli Studio Ravana, we have that evil, bulged eyes and that muscle-bodied Ravana. But on the other hand, we have Saif Ali Khan Ravana, who is more or less like a Hollywoodish hero, sorry, a Hollywoodish villain with double-decker heads and all. So we never get to see such a double-decked heads in Valmiki Ramayana or any other Ramayanas, but still we consider this as Ramayana, unfortunately, because it is available in the market. All right. But we need to consider such narratives as well, mainly because only then we'll understand what is the culture that we are rooted in. See, why do you think Adipurush failed miserably? This is mainly because of the cultural rootedness that we have over here. All right. Because people know, even a common man or even a small child knows that this is not what we actually need. Right. So that is the point why Adipurush failed, and Ghibli Studio Ramayana is lively. So we have so many mythologies getting popular, like reinterpretation or recreations in this manner. One is Loka. This is again, it's a Malayalam movie, and it is based on the Kalyankata Neeli mythology, very popular in Kerala, popularized through the writings of Kottarathil Shanguni, through the Idihiyamala narrative. So in this particular movie, you get to see a different Neeli compared to the Neeli that we are used to, or what we have heard about, the femme fatale. So Neeli is said to be a femme fatale, the blood drinking, femme fatale who lures young men. There are such stories, and there is also a story where Neeli was a very a marginalized woman who was killed by her upper class husband. So, so many stories associated with it. So we have another Neeli in front of us, that is Loka, in the form of Loka. We have a Kalyangata Neeli in a different way. Right. So what we see here is that there are multiple manifestations of mythology available in front of us, be it ritualistic, be it in an aesthetic way, be it artistic way, be it in a filmy way. Every narrative that we deal with are very relevant for us. These are the mythologies that we are talking about. So we are no longer stuck in the Vedic times, or we are not talking about the Aryan civilization anymore. We are talking about a synchronic study. We are talking about the diachronic study and the synchronic study of mythology. So myths, how they evolve through retelling. So this is what we are doing right now. And how vernacular traditions reinterpret mythology. So what are their contributions to the discourse of mythology? How folklore preserves cultural memory. So these are the things that we are dealing with over here. And literature, reimagining myth for modern audiences. Films, recreating myths for popular understanding. And in academia, we have something called Indian knowledge system right away, which ensures that a bias or a prejudiced approach to discourse of mythology is kind of shunned. All right. So this is why we are bringing multiple narratives. So be it the Bundeli art, or be it the Andalur Teyyam that we're talking about, or be it the movies of like Adipurush and Ghibli Studio Ramayana, or whatever Ramayana or Mahabharata we are talking about, be it a television soap opera Ramayana or Mahabharata we are talking about, everything deals with this evolution of myths, how myths are perceived by a contemporary audience. So this is our focus point. All right. And this is how we contribute to Indian knowledge system. We engage culturally, we engage socially, we engage politically, we engage artistically, literature wise and folklore wise. We engage with it in a very creative manner. All right. So myths, they do not survive because it remains unchanged. So where, if it is unchanged, it is not mythology at all. So let's conclude that. All right. So if it is remaining unchanged, if it is, if you are only relying on the Ramayana of Valmiki, then we could say that it is, a literature that is very rigid. All right. We are not dealing with any flexible literature over there. So to quote Mikhail Bakhtin in his Dialogic Imagination, he called epics as a rigid genre, mainly because of the lack of fluidity of the discussions happening on it. But on the other hand, the same Bakhtin talks about novel genre, where novels act as a flexible genre which guarantees fluidity to the narratives. Okay, so myths are like that. So myth should remain unchanged, or they survive because it remains unchanged. Because it remains unchanged, and it survives because communities continue to reinterpret it through ritual, art, storytelling, and literature. There's cultural rootedness discussed, okay, and there is a cultural homogenization that is resisted when we deal with multiple genres of mythology, or when we deal with the discourse of mythology. What we are doing is a way of resisting cultural homogenization. And what we are concerned with is the narrativity, how certain things can be recognized as stories, what are the elements of storytelling, how certain characters are portrayed, how the words are chosen for certain characters, performativity, like how certain performances are delivered to the audience, how community participates in it. So these are the focus of literature and folk culture studies across genres and art forms. All right, so this is my conclusion. So I would like to say, so what we as scholars of literature and folk culture studies, what we are concerned mainly are with the narrative part of these mythology and the performance part of the mythology, which contributes immensely to the Indian knowledge system. And that is why we are here. All right, so that's all. I'm done with my presentation.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
this. Yeah. Please, sir, you were saying something. Jolly, sir.
No, continue. I just, yeah, I know. You please.
Sir, I'm done, sir.
I
Okay.
know that. I know I'm here only, right?
Okay, okay, sir.
Safia.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you so much for this wonderful keynote presentation. Uh, Dr. Sreekutty has basically talked about like no questions there is that we face today regarding myths. We get to see a lot of discussion on myths and how people deal with myths, and is there any way to deal with it and its transformation. How myths and the myths that we are talking about today, they are evolved myths, right? And why are we talking about vernacularity? Why do we see myths through the lens of local language, decentralization of myths? Okay, we are like how this folklore and literature as a knowledge repository. So many things. But she has talked so much about myths, and then ritual, folklore and myths, tradition and transgression in Thayam, right? Folk art and mythic narrative, tradition versus transgression. She has talked a lot about, like, she has thrown a lot of questions in relation to myths, and with special reference to Ramayana, she has talked about today, and Thayyam, that is folk art form. Okay. And yeah, if you have any questions, please, audience, you can ask her.
Yeah, Sreekutty, thank you so much for a very energetic presentation
Thank you, sir.
and very, very interesting presentation. Basically, what's happening is today we started with the idea of Theyyam, but when you have taken it up, it is something like you have brought in how myths survive. You have given us a lot of hope. There is something to be there in folklore or something to
Yes,
look
yes,
at
yes.
in folklore. So in transgression, always the myths will survive or continue in multiple ways. So you can see Priyadarsan's daughter in a new Neely form. Huh?
Yeah,
Who is a Bram Stoker's Dracula's assistant, or Park Woon-chuk's assistant of that Dracula, whatever it is like a new form, but it's very interesting. Hmm? Interestingly, what I really liked it, the way you dealt with Andalurka. I suppose really there is somebody has to really work on Andalurka, because we have to really look at how the Ramayana's versions came with its multiplicity there, and mythically it is engulfed, but performatively it connect with the Konganbada, these people down, the people up, and the things are happening. It's highly highly spatially connected theatricality. So it's very interesting place. There are some works, but every time the works talks about who is Rama, who is Ravana, it is not that like. Then I really like the double decker usage. So we will have double decker. We have many double decker Moody's. Trains will have multiple Moody's. Anyway, thank you so much. It was very energetic, very nice, very
Thank you,
so many
sir.
things. I was thinking you will be talking about most of the Amish Tribadi, Kane too. I was thinking that way, but you surprised me. And in the very short notice, you pitched in and came in. That's what really
Okay, sir. It's
very
my
lovable. Thank you so much, dear.
thank you,
Yeah,
sir. Thank
some
you
there
so
will
much.
be questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Center for Folk Culture Studies, and the amazing group I have.
CFSR,
I did not expect,
CFSR.
yeah, CFSR. I did not expect this crowd. Yeah, but yeah, especially for an online session, I was thinking, okay, it would be me, Jolly sir, and Safia ma'am, or maybe a few.
Alright, it's a lunch
But
time. It is a lunch time. That's
yeah,
why
but
you are.
still,
Otherwise, you should have got some more people.
oh my God. But still, this is a surprising group, and it's very interesting. I was a bit nervous initially, but then I gained some momentum. So thanks to you all for the patient listening, and thanks for the opportunity, sir. Indeed, a great privilege
Wait,
for me.
wait, wait. Some question will be there.
Yeah, yeah,
Wait
sure,
a
sure.
moment.
Of course, of course.
I was also thinking that she will be talking majorly from the perspective, women's perspective, what women are writing about Sita and all those things. But she surprised me, and then like slowly, slowly, she has taken us to different genres. And
Yeah, so it's a something like, did I digress from the topic, or did I actually
no, no, no,
deliver
no,
something that was
actually,
desired? So
no. By the
No,
title
no.
made us to something different. So you were like, and it was really good. You were surprised. Yeah,
yeah.
good.
Because sir was actually asking me to talk about, my thesis. So my thesis kind of deals with these things, especially the narratives of Amish Tripathi, Kavita Kane, and Chitra Devagandhi Banerjee. So for me, it was kind of monotonous. So I thought, okay, I'll spice it up a little bit with something contemporary. So that is why I observed something around
Absolutely.
me, especially Bundeli art and all. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So just wanted to make it interesting.
Thank you.
One
Thank you,
problem I
Safia,
saw
also.
is that
Yes, ma'am.
Then one problem I saw is that the PPT was not very much visible. It was white in color, so maybe just
Oh, yes,
that.
because the images I used, they were really, low quality ones. So maybe next time I'll come up
No,
with
no,
something
no.
beautiful.
Hey, no, no, no. It is a strategy. A colorful Sreekutty with a colorless PPT.
Oh, good Lord.
That's the strategy. I really liked it. I know this.
No.
Anyway,
Anyway, sir, but I hope my presentation was at least colorful, if not me or the PPT. But yeah, that's what matters. Okay,
Oh no,
sir.
you too are colorful and very vibrant.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thanks to
So any
Jolly
question?
sir, he's my patron, my professor. So obviously there will be some influence of him for sure. So
yeah, it is there a bit.
yeah,
Thank
not
you
a
so
bit, sir,
much.
immensely.
Thank you so much. Thank
Okay,
you
sir,
so
thank
much.
you.
And
I'm not taking
we
much of
also
your
have to
time.
have a lunch and we have to get into the next
Yes, sir.
session.
Yes, sir. All
Thank you
right.
all. Thank you all.
Carry
Thank
on,
you,
sir. Thank
Jabalina.
you so
Thank you,
much.
Alia.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you, the team. Yeah. Rusha is
Thank you
there. Everybody.
everyone.
So
See
many
you
people are there.
at 2:30. Thank you everyone.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye bye.